Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to do something a little different. We're going to dissect two massive government systems that a lot of people face, but honestly, very few people really get. We're talking about immigration court and tax audits. We're going to break down how they really work, what they're asking of you, and what you absolutely need to know to get through them.
Okay, so let's dive right in. At first glance, you might think these two things are from different planets, right? I mean, one is about your right to live in a country. The other is about your taxes. But when you look under the hood, they're both these incredibly structured processes that get kicked off by one single critical piece of paper. And once that paper arrives, you're officially in the system. You see, in both of these worlds, your formal journey begins the moment the government serves you a document. And understanding what that document is, well, that's rule number one of the game. This isn't a suggestion. It's not a friendly request. It's a command. Now, this is what's so fascinating. You've got these two documents coming from completely different agencies, but they do the exact same job. On one hand, you have the notice to appear, the NTA. The source material calls this perhaps the most important document in your immigration case. Why? Because it lays out every single reason the government thinks you might have to leave the country. And on the other hand, you've got the IRS examination letter, which is the official starting gun for your tax audit. In both cases, this piece of paper is what formally pulls you in and demands that you respond. Okay, so once that paper triggers the process, you're moved into a specific arena. And each one has its own players, its own rules, and its own procedures. The environment itself totally dictates the strategy. So let's see how this builds out. So, the immigration hearing, this is a formal adversarial proceeding. It happens in a courtroom. Now, technically, it's a civil administrative proceeding, but let's be real. It looks and feels just like a trial. You've got a judge up on the bench in a black robe, government attorney making a case against you, and every single word is being recorded. It is a very high-stakes environment where a decision is going to be made about whether you can stay in the U.S., but a tax audit, or an examination as they call it, is a completely different animal. It's an administrative process, and the whole point is compliance. As the IRS materials explain, a lot of this is handled by just submitting documents or doing interviews over the phone with an IRS agent. The goal here isn't to win a case in front of a judge. It's for an agent to check if you follow the tax laws based on your records. All right, this next part is absolutely crucial. Both systems give you specific rights, but they also load you up with critical responsibilities. And here's the key. If you ignore those responsibilities, the consequences can be severe. Sometimes, there's no going back. In immigration court, the system is set up to provide what's called due process. The materials from the Executive Office for Immigration Review, or EOIR, make it clear you have the right to know exactly what you're being accused of, to challenge it, and to present your own side of the story. They even provide a government-paid interpreter so that language isn't a barrier. These rights are literally the foundation of your case. But, and this is a huge but, while you have all those rights, your number one non-negotiable responsibility is simply to show up. This quote from the Justice Department isn't messing around. It's not a suggestion. If you don't appear for your hearing, it's not just a little mistake, it's an automatic loss. The judge has zero choice in the matter. They must order you removed. That's the rule. Now, what's interesting is that the responsibility isn't always just on you. Sometimes it's on the professionals you hire. And in the tax world, this is a major part of how they keep the system honest. Tax preparers have a legal duty called due diligence, especially when they're helping clients claim certain tax credits. And this is a perfect real-world example of what that means. The IRS gives this scenario. A preparer is trying to figure out if their client can claim the earned income tax credit. To do that, they have to ask some really uncomfortable questions about the client's son's disability. Like, is it permanent? Is there a doctor's note? It feels incredibly personal, right? But the law requires the preparer to basically act like an investigator to do their job correctly. Okay, so you can probably see how complicated all this is, which is why professional help is so critical.
I mean, sources from both the IRS and the Department of Justice really hammer this point home. But choosing the right guide and, just as importantly, avoiding the wrong one is everything.
Now, you absolutely have the right to represent yourself. The legal term for it is pro se. But the official materials are basically shouting from the rooftops about how complex these systems are. One expert even said there's a clear positive impact that representation has on an immigration case. Think of it this way. The system is a game with a very specific rulebook, and a good representative is someone who knows that rulebook cover to cover.
The IRS actually lays out some very clear warning signs for spotting a bad tax professional. If someone promises you a bigger refund than anyone else, or if their fee is based on how big your refund is, that's a huge red flag. And get this, you are still legally on the hook for everything on your tax return, even if you paid someone else to prepare it.
And it's the exact same story on the immigration side. The system has very strict rules about who is actually qualified to represent you. The sources specifically warn people to stay away from notarios or immigration consultants who make big promises but aren't legally allowed to help. Hiring the wrong person isn't just a waste of money. Their mistakes could literally cost you your case and get you ordered removed from the country. So at the end of the day, both of these processes are designed to reach some kind of conclusion, a decision, a final bill, an order. But that initial decision is very often just one step in a much longer journey of appeals and other resolutions.
And this shows you exactly what I mean. A decision from the first judge isn't necessarily the end of the road, not by a long shot. In immigration cases, there's a whole appeals process. If the immigration judge rules against you, you typically have 30 days to take it to the next level, which is the Board of Immigration Appeals, or BIA. And if they agree with the first judge, there might still be one more step, appealing to the Federal Circuit Court.
For tax examinations, the outcome looks a little different. It's less about a guilty or not guilty verdict. It's more about getting to a final number. It might mean you owe more tax, you have to pay penalties, or you reach a formal settlement with the IRS. The whole point is to just close the books on that tax year correctly.
So what's the big takeaway from all this? Look, these government systems are incredibly complex and they can feel really intimidating. There's no doubt about it. But they are not random. They run on a solid foundation of rules, procedures, rights, and responsibilities. And understanding that these rules exist and figuring out how to play by them is absolutely the key to getting through it all effectively.